The launch of Husqvarna's Norden 901 is the best news for some and the worst kept secret for others. After a sequence of obscure philosophical videos featuring Lyndon Poskett among others riding the 901 prototypes around Iceland, we finally have a good glimpse of what this bike is all about. Husqvarna are marketed by KTM as their upmarket brand, much like KTM's other brand, Husaberg, were before they were morphed back into their Husqvarna origins. Essentially, the 901 is a reskinned homogenization of KTM's 890 Adventure and the more off-road focused 890 Adventure R. Literally, the bike has been wedged between the 890 siblings. While looks are a large part of what differentiates Husqvarna's Norden 901 and indeed the other Husqvarnas from their KTM donor bikes, the Norden does have some tweaks that differentiate and reposition it in a unique segment which is more adventure enduro than the 890 Adventure, but not as hardcore as the 890 Adventure R version. And the evidence for that is in the specs, equipment and bodywork. So let's take a brief glimpse at how this bike compares and on who KTM Husqvarna are positioning this bike for. As mentioned, underneath its typically unique Husqvarna styling, the Norden 901 is essentially a KTM 890 Adventure R blend if you like. The same smooth 889cc parallel twin engine is identical with its 435-degree crank and two counterweights producing V-twin-like responsiveness and the same 105 horsepower or 77 kilowatts of power and 100 newton meters or 73.7 foot-pounds of torque at 6,500 RPM. Where there are some slight differences are in the chassis, tank capacity and the suspension. Some will be disappointed that the 901 gets the same front and rear suspension as the base 890 Adventure, the WP Apex 43mm on the front and the rear WP Apex monoshock on the rear, and not the R's more focused 48mm WP Explore USD forks and the rear exact WP PDS monoshock. But I think this is a good compromise, as unlike the standard Adventure, which has no adjustment on the front end, the Norden front fork gets adjustability for compression, rebound and preload, while the rear suspension monoshock is adjustable for rebound and preload like the 890. Also, suspension travel on the taller Norden is 220 mils on the front and 215 mils on the back, which is more than the base 890 Adventure's 200 millimeters front and rear, but less than the more focused Adventure R's 240 millimeters on the front and rear. The Norden's steering head angle is almost identical to the base Adventure, but a little less aggressive than the R's 63.7 degrees. The Norden, though, is tall. With a seat height of 854 millimeters, it's taller than the standard Adventure's 830 millimeters, but lower than the 879 millimeters of the Adventure R. It does come with a 22 millimeter lowering kit, which is in-house designed and preserves the stability of the bike. Like its KTM brethren, the seat height is adjustable, as are the bars, with 30 millimeters of adjustment reach range. Again, its ground clearance falls somewhere between the two KTM 890 twins at 252 millimeters. It's less than the R's 264 millimeters, but more than the base Adventure's 230 millimeters. Like both KTM's, it comes standard with a quick shifter. Nice. In terms of price, the Norden is retailing at $15,199 Canadian, $1,100 more than the base 890 Adventure, but the same as the Adventure R. It sounds a tad expensive for some of you who might be considering the Husky as a slightly inferior 890 Adventure R version, but unlike the KTM's, it comes with cruise control and peripheral lights as standard. With optional hard luggage, soft luggage, heated seats, heated grips, and a higher screen. There's an Akrapovic slip-on exhaust available as well. Tech-wise, it gets the same 5-inch TFT as the 890s, with the typical street, rain, and sport riding modes, engine mapping, traction control, but with off-road TC allowing slides, removing the lean sensitivity and the anti-wheeling for log hopping. The Explorer mode allows the rider to dial in their own choices. With a fuel consumption of 4.5 litres per 100 kilometers or 62 miles per imperial gallon, this thing has a decent range, albeit with a 19 litre rather than a 20 litre tank found on both the KTM's. It shares the same lower hanging saddlebag tanks as the 890s, which means it'll carry its slightly heavier 204 kilograms dry weight lower and feel considerably lighter than the other top-heavy traditionally tank bikes like the lighter Tenere 700. 21-inch tubeless front and a similar 18-inch rear complete the important stats. Phew, that's over. And of course, there's the styling. Love it or hate it, with the round headlight, the grey, yellow, white and silver Husky livery, rally-like bodywork, and attractive, more conventional rally looks are squarely aimed at the rider that has been unable to reconcile the delicious off-road performance of the 890s with their praying mantis insectoid looks and has decided to look elsewhere away from the annoying orange glare. With more height, but the same lower front fender as the base 890 Adventure, Husqvarna have packaged this as an exceptional adventure travel motorcycle with true off-road ability, the sort inspired by Ewan and Charlie as they struggled the long way round with their bloated R1200 GSs. The Norden is now asking the question, why? And answering its own question saying, I can go anywhere, and with no compromise. I am a rally-capable adventure enduro long-distance tourer who will take you backcountry camping, across deserts or cruise for miles in relative comfort on the tarmac. I'm easier and more fun to ride off-road than your big 1290, but I'm as comfortable on the road as your 1200 GS. I am the one bike that truly fits all. And in a sense, it may well be one of the best truly all-round solo bikes out there right now, truly able to deal with single track while being just at home on the interstate. Don't get me wrong, I like this bike. I like where it's positioned between the two 890s, but there are some good reasons to be a little reticent before you part with your money for the Norden 901 in its first or 2 years, given the reliability issues riders have had with the 890s from Norden's parent company KTM. Both the KTM 890 Adventure and the 890 Adventure R have had a multitude of bugs in the first 2 years. This is well reported by owners on forums. Check out my links below for other vids on this. It's no secret that the 890s have and continue to have many issues. The engine cranking but not starting, failed clutches, failed rear shocks, failed brake calipers and discs, leaking countershaft seals, coolant leaks, water intrusion on the TFT, ABS failures and glitchy software where it doesn't remember your riding modes between rides, to name but a few. The shields are prone to buffet, and the engine, despite being smooth, sounds like it's eating itself. The tubeless tyres are not something I'd be that interested in if I were off-road for any length of time, as they are very hard to plug if they get a big gash in them. Fitting inner tubes may be a possibility, but careful with the heat build-up at higher speeds or lower pressures, which can lead to blowouts. And reseating a bead on a rim for a tubeless tyre would be very hard, hundreds of miles away from civilization. If you're a world traveller or someone who likes to go it alone, you may not want to beta test the Norden on your own dime until it's got a proven track record and alternative tube rims are offered. It also has a high compression engine which requires high octane fuel, which may be an issue in, say, Guatemala or Ecuador. My second major reason is going to be controversial, and I'll no doubt come in for some abuse from the R1200 GS, KTM 1290 and Triumph Tiger crowd of Saturday morning Starbucks warriors here. But oh well, many people are going to disagree when I gripe about the size of the Norden. But when I evaluate off-road capable bikes, I always come at it from my enduro background, not my road riding background. The limiting factor on all ADV bikes is their off-road performance. While ADV riders who come from a road-focused background will likely love the Norden 901, for me, given the places I like to go off-road, it's still too heavy for a true single-track fun. At 203 kilograms dry, it is twice the weight of my FE 390 Enduro. But, given the current 701 platform and the 401 platform in the Husqvarna stable, I will be waiting for two smaller capacity, lighter and more svelte siblings to be released by Husqvarna, which may well be better suited for true off-road adventures. After all, picking it up should be part of the fun and not a constant nagging worry. But before you hit those keyboards to lambaste me, I do recognize this has the potential to be the best ADV bike produced so far, and I tip my hat to KTM Husqvarna for the effort here. Don't get me wrong, this may well be a milestone. In summary, The 890s are exciting bikes to ride both on and off the road, and there's no reason to think the Norden will be any less exciting or capable. It certainly looks more capable than the standard 890 Adventure off-road, and far more pleasant for touring than both, although I won't be surprised to hear that the seat and shield may need upgrading for longer distance tarmac tours. As an off-road enduro and blacktop touring lover, this is a bike I could see myself trying and possibly owning. Given the promo vids and the stats, Husqvarna's Norden 901 is aimed at the rider who wants a true enduro-capable ADV bike with the ability to cross continents on the blacktop at pace. It certainly sounds appealing. Time will tell if it's reliable, up to the job, and becomes the ADV icon it promises to be.
Once again, thanks for watching everyone. If this is the first time you've watched, please consider subscribing. I do product reviews, motorcycle reviews, off-road and on-road vlogs, as well as tours. Don't forget to follow me on social media, that's Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and to like, and especially, I'm begging you here folks, subscribe. This is the BlueMarbleRider, out.